Hi everyone, it's Ketan here from Enterprise Lab. I hope you're well and welcome to another edition of the League of Disruptors show. So 2017 is already a power pack week already with Vanessa Talbot from Australia earlier this week. Then we tripped over to the US to see Alan Brower and talk about the Best Self company. We're staying in the US at this moment in time with the amazing Samantha Skelly, and boy has she got a story as well. I really want to get into this one as well. But what can I say about Samantha? Canada's leading emotional eating expert, founder of Hungry for Happiness. Does a lot of work on eating disorders and people with body image issues and stuff. I think particularly working with women and stuff, but we'll get into that in a little while, basically. But on behalf of the League of Disruptors and Enterprise Lab, Samantha Skelly, welcome to the League of Disruptors show. How are you?
Thanks. I'm doing really well. I'm looking out my window right now. I just got to San Diego, and we've been seeing dolphins, swimming. So I can't ask for anything more than that.
You've been seeing dolphins swimming. Amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like they come right up, and you see them jump and stuff. It's been beautiful. I just love it here.
Great. So look, I saw as a part of your 2016 exploits, you've had a wonderful year. You've done a lot of traveling. Actually, I'm going to be touching point on one of these poignant videos that you posted earlier in the year, where actually I saw where you weren't even talking, you were just moving all these pieces of paper through the message, and it was really hard hitting video, and we're going to talk about that in a little while. But how was your 2016? I think you wrapped up with Bali. Is that right? We got a delay. Hello?
Yeah, 2016 was the biggest. Oh, are we good? We have a delay?
Yeah.
We're good. 2016 was the greatest year as far as growth and expansion, not only in myself and who I became as an entrepreneur and a person, but in the company as well. It was the year where I just threw a bunch of crap at the wall and just figured out what stuck. And so it was a year of just really taking a chance on myself and knowing that this mission needs to be in the world, and it was my responsibility to deliver it in a way that was most authentic and real to what needs to be created right now. So it was an amazing year. And you're right. Yeah, we finished it off in Bali doing our Hungry for Happiness retreat, which was hands down the best thing I did in 2016. It was incredible.
Amazing. So look, I think for our audiences here in the UK and from other parts of the world, we get viewers from pretty much everywhere. Tell us who Samantha Skelly is. Tell us a little bit more about your background, how you got to Hungry for Happiness, and what Hungry for Happiness does.
Cool. Okay. Well, first of all, let's go way back.
Yeah.
I grew up as a child actress and a dancer and a stunt double. So I was in the performance industry from a very, very, very young age. And so when I wasn't on stage, I was in front of the camera. So there was a lot of attention on image when I was younger, from 4 years old, basically. And it didn't really affect me. It was just part of how I experienced life, as far as the rejection and the, working so hard for something and then not achieving it. It's kind of just how it was when you're in that industry, right? There's a ton of rejection, and it didn't affect me until after I stopped dancing and I stopped acting. Then I felt this loss of almost significance from not being in the performance industry, and that's when I spun into having a really dysfunctional relationship with food and with my body, and I just felt like I needed to find identity in something, and I decided that would be in the relationship I had to food, my body. Let me find significance through how I look rather than who I am. And so that was when I was about 18. And that pattern went on for 4 years, to the point where it was really taking away from my quality of life, and there was a huge cost to that. And something I learned, of course, as well, is there's 91% of women don't like their bodies right now, and I was just one of those 91% of people worldwide. And so after I went through my healing journey, I just realized that I need to create change in this way. And I felt the contrast and the difference between waking up and having to constantly fight food and hate your body versus using food for health and hunger and something to fully energize you and falling in love with your body. And I genuinely feel like two separate people. And so if I just took my journey, my mess, and I made it into my message. And that's basically what we do every single day at Hungry for Happiness. You
took your mess and you turned it into your message. I think there's a fantastic transition. Obviously, a lot of people that have come on the show have points of controversy or a pivoting moment. I mean, some people lose their jobs. Others maybe lose loved ones, or lose their family in this respect. I think you got to a stage where, you're in an industry that you love so much, but all of a sudden not being there had taken its toll negatively, would you say, with the fact that you were eating and you felt, I think let's put the eating to one side. What about your feelings? Did you feel empty? Did it make you feel kind of useless or redundant to the fact that you're not doing the thing that you loved most at that moment in time?
Yeah, I mean, my first company was a personal training company. So I had a company in England, actually, in London, and it was a mobile personal training company. Oh, cool. So during the time where I was struggling most with food, I was a personal trainer and I was running this company with a team of 6 people. And so there was like a huge disconnect, and I felt super out of integrity doing that because I myself did not have a good relationship with food in my body. So there was like this sense of like, I'm a fake, I'm a fraud kind of thing going on, which I know a lot of people experience when they're doing their missions. Yeah. But it was strong enough for me to be like, it's actually unhealthy for me to be in this position right now. I need to completely disconnect from the fitness industry, work on myself, go on this healing journey to really figure out, what I was actually hungry for before I want to do this again and want to pursue fitness. And so after that journey of like really figuring it all out, going back into fitness was not even exciting at all for me. I'm like, nah, there's no way I'm doing that anymore. This is so much more interesting. So working on the emotional level, it's all emotional. And like, I was just helping people put more Band-Aids on bullet wounds, right? Like that was not productive at all. Yeah. So it's so much more fulfilling knowing that we're not putting Band-Aids on bullet wounds, and we're actually working at an emotional level, which creates sustainable transformation in people's minds and their bodies. And it's not like a quick fix or like a lose weight fast kind of thing. It's so much more than that.
No, I get that as well, because I mean, obviously we're going to talk a little bit about mindsets and emotion and anxiety and depression in a little while, but just you've come out of the personal training environment. You've gone through that kind of fitness environment now into this whole thing about food and emotional intelligence and the way in which you feel and stuff like this. I mean, there is a big fad in the industry already, the fact that, get fit, get fat, especially now at this time of the year, everyone's setting up their New Year resolutions and all this kind of stuff. I know statistically 14 days is as long as most resolutions last. What did you have to do? You came into this industry. I know you felt, you discovered this in your own path. You knew this is the right thing for you. All of a sudden, you're now kind of immersing yourself into an industry that's got quite a lot of a facade, as much as that, there's only a small percentage of people doing the real things. I mean, what did you have to do to really kind of cut through the crap so people can say, actually, what Hungry for Happiness is doing and what Samantha's offering me, in terms of a life link and stuff like this is real? What did you do to cut through the crap that's out there at the moment? Because there are so many people that says I can make you rich, or I can make you fit, and I can make you happy, I can make you do this. I'm sure you weren't really approaching it in that way of saying I can do this for you. It's, what was your approach into the industry, and how did you cut through the crap?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think it's not so much me cutting through the crap, it's me knowing exactly what works based on my own experience. So I was on over 50 diets in less than 4 years, and just like I could never not be on a diet. And so I absolutely 100% without a doubt know that does not work at all. And I 100% know without a doubt that when we work on the emotional stuff, use food for health and hunger, connect back into our bodies, weight loss becomes a result of the work. It's not the focus. And I 100% know that works because it worked for me and it works for hundreds of people that I work with. So it's not about shaming what everybody else is doing, because I think that's just putting energy in the wrong place. Yeah. And it's not about it's not even about convincing people that this is a good idea. I think after 20 plus years of women dieting, they get to a place of exhaustion where they're like, I literally can't do this anymore. Sure. What else is out there? And so like Hungry for Happiness is that other option of like, if you're absolutely sick and tired of like feeding into the system that's basically marketing to your insecurities to benefit their bottom line, and you're getting to a place where you're like, I can't do that anymore, that's when we come in. So to be honest with you, the majority of our clients are like 40 to 60 because they've spent like from their teenage to 40 dieting, or maybe like 35 to 60. Yeah. So our clientele is older because they get to a place of just like total exhaustion. And that's when we come in and we teach them the tools of how to actually use food for health and hunger, how to stop using food as a drug, how to be intuitive, how to get back in your body. And those are the things that, I mean, it's just so innate within us anyways. You know, when we were back in tribal times and in the caves, if we did not use our intuition, we would have died. Yeah. And today, logic is valued so much more for intuition. And so we get ourselves caught up in these cycles of like overthinking and overanalyzing, when really we just need to stop consuming altogether and get back to what's the most innate within us, which is listening to our bodies. And so it's just about setting an example. And I think like there's only so much I can do. And I feel like my clients are running with the torches for me. Like they're going through the program, they're going through all the teachings, and they're being like, oh wow, I actually released 40 pounds not from dieting, but just simply from integrating and executing these strategies that I learned through this course. Like this feels amazing. And so it's a long-term strategy, right? It's not like I could market weight loss and I could be $1 billion company, you know, or multi-million dollar company, but that's not the strategy that we're doing. We're allowing the movement to speak for itself through our clients, and that's the way we've been able to grow so quickly this year.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I suppose one of the centric wealth parts of your business is the enrichment of experience that your clients and the people that are connected to Hungry for Happiness gets in that respect. And I just want to bring in this little element about mindset and attitude and stuff. It's a lot of stuff that's very, very close to my heart. My company focuses on helping people change their behaviors, looking at perceptions. I'm a believer that 1% change in your perception equals 100% change in your results. Now, you talked about the fact that the typical clientele that works with you or comes into the community environment at Hungry for Happiness are those that have been through long-term diet, fad diets, changes. They've done the whole exercise regime. You mentioned that word tired. They're exhausted. They're exhausted on the opportunities and the options. What has it done to them from a mindset perspective? How is it, do you find that they have very, very fragile confidence issues? Do you find they're on that kind of borderline of depression and negativity when they're coming to you as well? Does the exhaustion play into that part as well?
Of course. When you're dieting and you're failing, and you're dieting and you're failing, because there's literally failure built into the fiber of dieting. That's how it works. Mm-hmm. You get a mindset of, I'm a failure, right? I'm a failure. I'm a failure. I'm a failure. And that mindset, that belief about yourself, is not localized to just dieting. It literally percolates into all areas of your life, your relationships with other people, your career, your relationship with money, your relationship with everything. It's like, I'm a failure. That's your belief, which has been created in something that is designed to fail, right? It's designed to fail. And so, yes, people come to me and it's like they even question if they're going to be able to succeed at our programs and the things that we offer, because they have this deep-rooted belief and mindset of, I'm a failure, which has been created through their experience of dieting. So 100%, like you can't, and once they heal that part of themselves, the food and body, everything else up levels. everything else up levels.
I mean, it's kind of ironic. It's kind of funny how that happens in that sense. I mean, obviously, I suppose what we're getting to here as well is part of the process of undertaking, the programs like Hungry for Happiness is it's not just about the reviving what they're eating and what they're feeling, but it's almost actually turning a page for them in the fact of how they live their lives moving forward. The way in which they perceive things, the way they see things. Like you say, I think if they've been cast in failure for so long, they feel that's not just failure in their ability to lose weight or have the body that they desire to have, but it kind of starts to, like you say, percolate into other areas, whether it's relationships, their professions. I mean, the other side of this that I wanted to ask you is do you find that a lot of the people, when they start coming into the programs, they're also looking over their shoulder at what's happening to their next door neighbor, or perhaps someone out there, and saying, why is it that they can do this and that I can't do that? Do you find that, apart from just questioning their own ability, they're starting to question what's happening around them as well?
Oh, of course. We all do it. It's like, why is it so much easier for Susie? It's like that is not. Yeah, that happens all the time. Like, why can she eat like 5 bags of chips and not gain a pound, but I'll look at the bag of chips and I'll gain 10 pounds? So it is right. And when we're dieting, we're comparing to where we used to be and how skinny we used to be. We're comparing it to our neighbor, the girl at the gym, like, and in that state, it kills us. Like, comparison literally kills us. It debilitates us from taking action and moving forward, because we're coming from a place of lack. Right? I am not good enough. Let me compare to this to really make myself feel like a bag of balls. Right? That is literally what we're doing in that mindset. So it's no different with this. And we have to cut the cords of comparison if we're expecting ourselves to become the highest, best, and most authentic version of ourselves. And that can be a finicky pattern to restructure, because it's so bred into who we are. Like, let's compare. Let's make sure that I'm doing a little bit better so I feel good about myself. Like, it's just a sticky game to play all together.
And you you pardon my French, but you are actually smashing the shit out of that. And what I mean by that, you're taking a sledgehammer and I get the feeling, from the way you're talking about how Hungry for Happiness works in this respect, is that you just take a sledgehammer and you just smash that whole thought. It's not about comparison, it's about who you are. I get the sense that there's rediscovery there. Before you can, I used to be a believer that you shouldn't pursue happiness, you should eradicate all the negativity, and then you'll be happy in this respect. But it can be it's an emotional roller coaster in more ways than one. I think the honesty about the secret diets. I mean, I've had nutritionists on before talking about the fact that we eat against our emotions, and we have a particular habit or particular foods that we go to when we feel a particular way. More recently, I had Colby Kalibas who runs the Healthy Primate, who's now building supplements to help people feel great in their environment. And I don't want to go on the entrepreneur spin here a little bit more, but I'm going to add it in at this moment. The typical type of people that you have here as well. I mean, these are entrepreneurs or business owners in that sense. They have apparently no time to eat, no time to sleep, no time to do this, no time to do that. So what is it about Hungry for Happiness that when it comes to time? I mean, how do you what is your advice, and what is your your mantra about time when it in what you're doing?
So Tony Robbins talks about a concept of, I think he calls it like net time, like no extra time. And everything I teach in my programs is all about like integration and execution. So it's not about, hey, let's carve out 5 hours out of our day to like love ourselves. That's not what it's about. It's about how can we literally change the essence and the perspective of what we're doing right now in order to yield a different result. So whether that's our relationship with food, our relationship with our body, our mindset, whatever it is, it's like we're not taking out any more time. We are just simply changing the way we think about doing things and viscerally changing our bodies to show up differently. And when we raise our vibrations to, for instance, taking our vibration from a place of lack and limitation to abundance and we choose to live there, that's just where we live. It's not about any extra time. So the majority of the women that I work with are super high achievers. They are, you know, CEOs of banks, they're entrepreneurs, they're like, you know, multiple six-figure earners. And this work works so well with them because you're not taking any extra time. It takes no time for you to integrate into your body and tap into your intuition when you are eating to not overeat. That takes zero time. In fact, you are buying yourself time by being present. So the whole time thing is like, that's people's objection to doing the work, and it's a dumb one. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay, well, you're right. Actually, you are right, because there's only a finite number of hours in the day, and it's not a case of you have to proportion the time to say I'm going to do half an hour of this or 45 minutes of this or 12. What you're actually saying is it's not about making the time. It's about infusing what you're doing in the time that you're already living. So you know, I mean, the next kind of part that I think was that I feel when it comes to all this kind of stuff is habits and rituals, in the fact that, you know, most people that don't have any habits or any rituals tend to sort of be meandering around in this world. They just go kind of round and round in this everlasting circle of procrastination and dullness and stuff. For sure. What's your opinions on habits, rituals? How do you use them? You know, in your life, and what kind of significance do they play at Hungry for Happiness?
Okay, great question. Number one, in order to create any habit or ritual in your life, you have to first look at your standards. Because if we manipulate our behavior without upgrading our standards, you're going to have that ritual or habit for 2 days, and then you're going to be like, oh, that's inconvenient. You have to connect it to a deep enough, like, why are you doing this? And why does it mean enough to you to raise your standards? Like, that's a huge one. Number two, decisive decision making. You have to decide that there's no other way, and burning all of the other boats of your excuses. Because as soon as we get into negotiation with our mind, when we're not decisive, we'll get taken down every time, because our mind, the patterns that are in our mind and our bodies have been living there so much longer than that pattern or that habit or ritual that we now want to introduce. So it's about like absolutely deciding that there's going to be no other way. You're going to do this. Like right now, my friends and I are doing this fitness challenge where like every single day we have to do 70 burpees, 70 dips, 70 push-ups, 70 squats. And like, if there was like a little bit of like, oh yeah, I'm going to see how I feel that day, there's no way I would do it. I'd be like, oh no, I'm not doing that. I'm good. Right. But I decided that was what is going to happen. I 100% committed to it, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that happens every single day. And so it takes a super high level of consistency, dedication, and commitment in order to actually have these rituals and habits work in your life. And as soon as you 100% decide that that's what's happening, it then becomes second nature. Like, for instance, my morning routine. I don't negotiate with that. I just wake up and I do it, because I know if I don't do it, I'm not going to be able to show up on a Skype call with you and serve in the way that I want to do, or be on a coaching call. You know, it's like, it's going to affect everything I do if I don't honor myself first. So that's a decision that I made, that I have to do that every single day. How it shows up in Hungry for Happiness is, again, we work on the belief level. We don't manipulate behaviors, right? So our behaviors our beliefs are translated into our thoughts, which are translated into our feelings, which are translated into actions, which are translated into our results, our behaviors. Most of the time when people want to change their life, they just work on the behavioral level. Well, let me like exercise more, eat less, whatever it is. And that's all great. But if you don't change the behavior, you're going to get knocked on your ass every single time. Or you don't change the belief, you're going to get knocked on your ass every single time. So that's how habits and rituals work in our company, and how we coach our clients is we start from the ground up.
It's interesting, because I've had a dynamic duo in Laura and Barry Ash that came onto the show last year, and they work on both sides. They do the fitness side and they do the eating side. And you know, Laura's got bipolar and stuff like this. And there's one thing that Barry said to me, which was amazing. Actually, it's kind of resonated with me for a long time now, which is he uses a process called DIN, D-I-N, which is do it now. So what he was trying to say here is that if you psych yourself up to go to the gym, or to do what you're doing, these 70 burpees, 70 push-ups, 70 this, right, I'm going to do it, actually the minute you start saying I'm going to do it, you start talking yourself out of it. You start finding some sort of clever excuse rather than saying to yourself I'm going to do it. Just go and do it. In that respect, the thing is with this is, yeah, you're absolutely right. You've got to have this real strong belief in what you're doing. I love the fact that, you know, the way you talk about that you've got to eradicate everything else out of the mind. If this is what you want, this is what you want to do, this is the way it's going to be. And it's like you say, non-negotiable. You don't negotiate with your morning rituals. But I still find that, and again, we touched base with this yesterday with when I spoke to Alan, and Alan was saying that what tends to happen is we tend to get distracted by other people's problems or other people's issues, or getting stuck or our time gets stuck doing things for other people, like having to answer an email or take a phone call or do this or do that. And as a result of that, again, I'm coming back to time again. We get this kind of sense of, I've got no time to do this. And the reason I say this to you is I've recently entered the world of meditation. It's for years and years and years. I haven't kind of looked at it and shrugged it away, but it's kind of been I don't think meditation's for me. I've always, but I not believe. I think. I just kept thinking, and then I got this app, and I thought, what the heck? Do you know what? It's 10 minutes of my life. Let's do it. And actually, it was. That's how it was. Maybe that was my non-negotiable moment. But the fun thing with it is, it's almost becoming addictive now. Yeah. But the problem was, I kind of started. Oh yeah. What I'm getting to here with this is, you know, you have a morning ritual, okay? When I started meditating, I didn't meditate in the mornings, even though it says you should meditate in the morning. I was meditating at night before I was going to sleep. The reason being is my mind is the most active when I put my head down on the pillow. It just starts racing with so many different things, like do this and do that, got to do this. So I thought, let me start there. And actually, I was getting better night's sleep, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking, right, I'm now going to start moving it towards the morning. Do you find with clients at Hungry for Happiness that it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be a thing that you do at 5 or 6 in the morning or 7 or 8 in the morning? It can be something that you do at 11 o'clock at night. But the fact of it is, it's got to be important to you, it's got to be valuable to be, and you've got to feel it, what you're doing in that sense. So do you find that there is a mix with your clients, that some do things in the morning and some do things in the evening?
100%. So you have to make it work for you. It has to work for you. Some of my clients are, you know, they have 3 small kids and they get up at 4:30 every single morning or whatever it is. So is it really, you know, are they going to get up at 3:30 in the morning to be able to do this? Probably not, right? No. So it all comes down to making the time and committing to it. So if it's a decision that they've made in advance that they are going to do every single day, then do it at a time that works for you, but do it at the same time every single day that works for you. Okay. Because if we leave it up to chance, life is too busy. Okay, that's I think that's an interesting point, because like you say, if you pick to do it at a particular time, do it at that time all the time, and that's where the habit and the habit part of it comes from. I suppose for someone like me, I've kind of jumped it from one side to the other. I mean, okay, fine, it's working, and I'm still doing it in this respect, because it's almost now for me the same way that we think about brushing our teeth, or we don't actually, we just automatically brush our teeth, or we go for a shower, you make the bed, all of these kind of things you do, without even thinking. For me now, it's now starting to fall into that place basically. But what is so what is your kind of take on things like triggers that force habits? So you know, we talked about a little bit about the fact you've got to find something that you believe in, you've got to make it happen. It doesn't matter when you do it in the day, but make sure it's consistently done at that time of the day to keep that habit going. What about triggers? You know, I mean, within emotional stuff that you work on, there must be certain triggers there. So how do triggers play in habits, and how do they play Hungry for Happiness? Just to clarify the question, are you talking about negative triggers, or are you talking about positive triggers that propel us into taking action? I think actually now you've asked the question about that way, I'm going to ask you for answer on both things actually. Okay. Maybe that's what you're asking. Yeah, start with whichever one you feel sort of you want to go with. But yeah, actually now negative and positive triggers. Okay, cool. So when we're negatively triggered for us to take action, it's out of fear, right? So if we have a negative trigger and we're like, oh shit, I don't want to be like this, let me take action out of fear, that's never going to work. It's never going to work, right? We can't scare ourselves into personal transformation. We can't shame our way into success. It just does not work. However, if we have if we create positive triggers like, okay, when I feel this, then I want to do this, that flow is so much easier to go. So the journey of that transformation is so much better. So let me give you an example of what I mean by this.
Yeah.
A negative trigger would be hopping on the scale, not liking what number that is on the scale, and then taking action out of fear because we're trying to run away from our body because we hate our body, right? So that would be an example of a negative trigger that forces us to take action out of fear rather than love. Never works. Number two, I shouldn't say it never works. It works very temporarily, and it's a Band-Aid on a bullet wound because you're missing the point of like, why do you feel that way about yourself? And then there's positive triggers where a lot of the women that I work with, they've never actually experienced nor trusted their intuition. Like they just feel numb because they're super disconnected from their body. A positive trigger would be them feeling into their intuition and then knowing that like, oh, I feel into my intuition. Cool. If I can feel it, then I can decipher the difference between a yes and a no in my body, and I can start using this. So that's out of like more like an expansion and a growth out of a place of love and not fear. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. In fact, you know what? It's almost, for me, in a very simplistic term, it's the difference between reaction and response. In the fact that, you know, your negative trigger is the reaction part of it, which we always try and educate our clients never to react. It's always better to respond. Okay, fine, gut reactions, but it's interesting you say that, because it's not just in your eating or in your fitness or in your weight control or whatever it is. It's pretty much generally in every part of life. If you see something and you have a negative connotation towards that, and then you create some form of action, it just takes you down this downward spiral very, very rapidly. It may temporarily show you a little bit of that shininess that you wanted, but eventually it becomes very, very dull very, very quickly. And does that kind of indicate that people tend to fall further down as a result of, you know, reacting to negative triggers? Do you find that they actually fall further below where they were, you know, when they first kind of started?
Yeah, well, everyone, like, you've probably heard it yourself, like, I went on a diet and then I gained all the way back plus more, right? It's like you take one step forward and two steps backwards. That one step forward is taken out of fear and disconnecting from your body, so you're going to end up further away. Same thing that happens with comparison, right? We look to the side, we're like, oh geez, like she's doing way better than I am, let me like light a fire under my ass. And it's that action is taken out of a place of fear, right? Like, I'm scared of falling behind, I'm going to like take action out of fear. And the quality of that action and the place that that's created from is not as, it's diluted, and it doesn't have like that essence of like power and energy and creation and life force. It's like, oh, I'm doing this because it's at a scarcity, lack, and limitation. Like, I'm scared to get behind. And so although like are you being inspired to become the highest, best, and most authentic version of yourself, or are you taking action because you're scared of falling behind? Like, those are real conversations that entrepreneurs need to be having with themselves more often, because so often we can get caught up in this trap of comparison and just taking action out of fear.
And I mean, this is just coming back into Hungry for Happiness. Is this something that you try and you not, I wouldn't say attack, but is this something that you try to get through quite quickly with your clients at the early stage of the relationship that they have with you? Is this, I'm not talking about standard consultation of what is it, where do you want to be, and all that. It's, you seem like you have this real strong arrow that you can fire straight through, as I say, cutting the crap out and going straight into the points of where it hurts most. So, do you is this something that you guys do quite instinctively, quite quickly, to see if someone is reacting to fear or responding to positivity? And what does that do when the minute you start working with someone in that in that way, do you see a sudden kind of moments start coming from their, from their heads? Do you see their eyes widening and, they start to smile? I mean, what happens to the demeanor of the person when you've got to that point, when you've shot that arrow of reality into them?
It's interesting, all sorts of things. Some of my clients are like, I effing hate you.
Love it.
They're like, oh my God, like you can see right through me. And I think that I'm beginning to realize this year, really, like that is definitely one of my gifts, and it's definitely what makes me good at what I do, is I can really like get through all the crap and just laser in. And if that person's not receptive and not open to change, and it's basically me kind of coaching their ego, and that can be super triggering. And so they'll get defensive, but like I do it in a way that comes from a place of love, and I reiterate that all the time. I'm like, I'm doing this because I love you and I know you're better than this, and your story is shit, and you need to change that in order to transform your life. So a lot of the times my clients are like, will get defensive, but I know how to work with that, and that's cool, and I've seen it all. Or they'll be like, oh my God, how have I been living under this pattern for so long that's been like creating such negative impact on my whole life? And they'll be like, just pure love and appreciation. So I get all sorts of reactions. There are some people, I'll cut through it and it won't resonate because they don't believe it's happening. They don't see it. So when I'm coaching them through it, they're not getting it yet. And then 3 months later, they'll be like, oh my God, Sam, that one thing that you said 3 months ago, I finally understand it now. So I'm open to all, like, I'm super detached from their reactions of like how I show up for them. Because it's not my business at all. But I can see through people's stuff very easily.
And that's amazing. That's truly disruptive as well, because sometimes it is that whole metaphor of to make an omelette you got to break eggs sometimes, but at the same time it's you've got to be able to work out where the ego lies and where there is a distinct lack of confidence. Sometimes ego could be the shell that someone puts in behind that major lack of confidence. They put the bravado on in front, but really it's kind of slowly as you chip away, and then all of a sudden it's a major waterfall rather than a river in this respect. And look, you're doing this. You're creating harmony. You're creating this transcendence. You're creating this whole sort of even level for your clients. Gives them clarity, helps them transform in whatever they want to transform. They don't even have to have a focus by the sounds of this, because what you're doing is you're helping them look at things from a different way and act in a different way. But I find it sometimes it's highly charged emotionally. For me as an individual, I can have four or five coaching calls or clients in one particular day, and switching on and switching off and switching on and switching off, and being able to get into the depths of this. Come on, look, you're a wonderful, beautiful looking woman. Look, bright, really jumping, really lively. How do you manage, what's your secret to how you manage your energy levels in terms of keeping this balance? Because I tell you something, yin and yang is just not going to kick it, with this. There's got to be something a lot more behind that, apart from eating healthy and all this kind of stuff. I mean, what is it that you do that keeps you kind of going, rather than that we can kind of tend to see in coaches and consultants and personal development experts?
Yeah, I think it's about being highly empathetic, yet having energetic boundaries, so I don't take on people's energy. I'm super empathetic, and I'm an empath, which makes me good at what I do, but it drains me in previous years because I didn't know how to actually take on that energy or interact with that energy without taking it on myself. And so this is like a part of my morning routine, is it's like creating this energetic boundaries and barriers where like I can give and I can serve, but I'm also detached from it. And so this is something that I still work on all the time, because towards the beginning of, or the end of 2015 and the beginning of 2016, my emotions were like so often, because I'm literally working with hundreds of women at any given time.
Yes. And
so that's a lot to take on. I also, like, in between calls or in between between, if I'm like doing a podcast with you, and then right next I have a coaching call, and then I have like a webinar of 100 people, I'll do like little rituals in between. So I'll sometimes go in the shower and like visualize white light coming down on my body and like cleansing the energy. And like, it's just like a visualization that I do to like get me super aligned. Yeah. I'll go for a run. Right now I'm living in front of the ocean, so like running into the ocean and jumping in the waves for 15 minutes, or doing things that like clear my energetic field, so then I'm able to show up and have a clear baseline. Because the worst thing is taking energy from one call into the next, and it gets diluted and messy, and it actually gets in the way of me seeing the truth in that moment and in that interaction. So again, that's a responsibility that I have to protect my energy. Secondly, I'm very careful about the people that I hang out with and the places that I put myself in. I choose to only hang out with people who are like vibrating at my level, and it's a mutual energetic exchange with the people that I live with, the people that I choose to work with, my staff, my clients. It has to feel good for me at all times, and if it doesn't, then it's not going to work for me, because again, it's like preserving my energy to be able to show up and serve. So I hope that answered your question.
That massively answered the question. I tell you, beyond my expectation in that. I mean, I was having this kind of thought of you bloody having this light coming down on you, cleansing you, and this kind of... But I suppose metaphorically we can all do that, because there's, the coaching. The reason I asked the question is the coaching industry exploded over the last 5 years. I mean, it's gone like a million times in terms of its growth and and what it's doing. And I just feel that there are people that are coming in that are doing great. There are people that actually are pulling the industry down. There are people that don't really know what they're doing. And I find that, even with me, I sometimes I have only the 5 minutes in between a call in this respect sometimes, because the days are busy and you've got to get through that. But it's that 5 minutes of magic, whatever it is that you do, is just needs to clear out. I think you say such a valid point about being able to push out anything from the previous call or the previous activity, so you're actually clean, you're neutral, you're ready for the next intake that comes through. And you mentioned in the fact that whether you're doing it on a one-to-one basis or a one-to-many basis, your performance needs to be at that level, because I suppose people are feeding off your energy when you're starting all of this stuff, so that when you're in your webinars, or if you're doing a one-to-one, there is this situation where they're hoping that you're going to be able to push a bit of your energy onto them so they can start moving. Now if you still got the energy from the last call going, I think what you're doing, you're just sending borrowed energy over, I guess, basically, in that respect. So yeah, talking about a little bit about, and we've only got about 15 minutes to go. I can't believe we've been talking for so long already, basically. And I can see that we've got viewers from Dubai, we've got viewers from the UK, South Africa. Everyone's saying hello. No one's asking any questions, but if you do have a question for Samantha, please do ask the question now. I just want to go back a little bit into this period where you were talking about in 2015 and stroke into 16, and this is a little bit about what I was saying at the beginning of the show. One moment that really struck for me when I kind of when I connected and started to follow what you're doing is when you did this video about depression and anxiety. And in fact, for someone who didn't actually use any words in the video, you just used all these cards where you're doing the message. You actually, I could hear you speak through your emotion, but all your emotion was your face. I don't want you to go back and relive any of that. I don't want you to start crying on here, but if you want to cry, you can cry. It's the League of Disruptors. Can you just tell me, what was going on at that moment in time? Was it something specific to you in your life? Was it something that happened with your tribe and the people that you're in? Because it was massively moving, and I just think I haven't seen anything that powerful for a very long time.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I couldn't believe it. That video got nearly 70,000 views. There was a blogger who shared it to her tribe of 2 million people, and then the next day her and I went for lunch, and now we're going to be doing an affiliate partnership. So I mean, the stuff that can happen from being vulnerable is crazy. But anyways, what was going on there is, well, number one, hang on just 1 second here. There we go. The camera went off. What I have a responsibility. If I'm going to spread messages of love and light and transformation, I have a responsibility and a duty to also talk about anxiety and depression and the negative things as well, because people can relate with that more. Obviously, 70,000 views, hundreds of shares, hundreds of likes, like obviously that resonates with people and it makes people feel not so alone. Personally, it was November, which was the busiest month of my entire life ever. I was running my first live event. We were doing a massive launch of the Society, which is our signature program. I was off to Bali to do this big retreat. I just took on director of operations, which is a huge role. So there was so much going on. And then in the midst of all that happening, I went through a breakup. So I was like, oh my God, I can't handle another thing. And I just was experiencing like debilitating anxiety to the point where I'm like, I can't work right now. I was up in Vancouver. I was visiting my family and I was at my mom's house and she's like, what's wrong with you? I've never seen you like this. I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Well, I realized that there was a lot of things in the external world that were like I was choosing to allow to stress me out, and then with the breakup as well, there was just a lot going on, and I'm like, you know what, this is exactly how I feel. And so every Thursday I do a video, and it was Thursday, and I was like, I'm not going to pretend that I'm happy today. I'm just going to do a different kind of video. And so I did that video, and I didn't say anything, but I was just sharing how I felt through those cards, and just like letting the emotion to come out and whatever. And I received hundreds of messages from people being like, thank you so much for sharing that. They're like, I feel so alone in my battle with, some people had like severe depression, which I don't have at all. It was just a few days of anxiety that I was experiencing, but people resonated with that message and they're like, I don't feel so alone. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And so that for me was really cool. And like, I felt pretty honored to just be able to serve and help in that way, which is very different than how I normally show up. It's, 95% of my life, I'm pretty happy. So,
but it's interesting because it actually, for me, apart from it being amazingly moving, just because there's no words and it was just as it was done, and looking at the placards and looking at your emotion, it was just a state of how people perceive it and take it in and how they kind of handle it themselves. The other side to this is, I suppose, it shows how human you are as well, because if you're constantly happy, energy, it kind of gets to a debate that, is this person ever sad, in that respect, or is it just that they're showing one half of their world? I mean, I'm not saying that you've got to go, you've got to have 5 happy videos, 5 sad videos, but these little moments here actually, like you say, it kind of created that ripple for you to a certain extent, of new fans, new opportunities, new waves. I just think it just goes to show. I mean, I think people don't have to just they don't even have to speak sometimes, but the one thing they should do, and I'm saying this as a part to our audiences from what I've learned from what you did there, is it's okay to show your vulnerability. It's okay to feel like you don't know. It's okay not to have all the answers. It's okay to ask for help, and all these kind of things, because I think sometimes we come into these environments, maybe the media or influences, that we've got to be superhuman and we've got to block all the crap and only show good. And every time you it's that whole proverb, every time I get a sale, I'm going to ring the bell, I'm going to tell everyone, or I've just bought a Ferrari or a Bentley or whatever it is. Sometimes sometimes I even think to myself, maybe I should go on and just talk about some of these things that I get worried about. But then before, back in the day, I used to get this kind of situation where I think, well, then people may not perceive you to be the pillar of strength that they want. But actually, I'm going to be quite honest here and quite frank, Samantha. That video actually showed more of your strength than, I guess, some of the more smaller dynamic videos that you'll probably do. It just shows a complete pillar, and stone. And the fact that within a period of time and momentum, you moved along, and all of a sudden, bang, you're back at your best, just goes to show that these are small snippets of vulnerability that can that, you know, if you let them consume you, they'll last forever. But if you know that pain is temporary, it will go away. I talk a lot about stubbing your toe, and you know that pain. You don't think about what you're going to have for dinner when you stub your toe, but eventually you start thinking about different things apart from that. But look, you've talked a lot about webinars. You talked about groups. You talked about tribes. You talked about retreats. I know that there are going to be people either watching this live or watching this afterwards that are going to be like, right, I want a bit of the Skelly. I want a bit of this hungry for happiness. So look, how can people first kind of connect with you, and where can people go and find out how they can be part of the Hungry for Happiness tribe and community?
Cool. So if you hop onto hungryforhappiness.com, sign up for our mailing list. I send out pretty much everything through our mailing list. Everything that we do at Hungry for Happiness is by application and invitation only. So if something I said in this call resonated with you, and it's, you know, you're struggling with food in your body and you want to nip that in the butt, apply for the society. It's our signature program. It's our 6-month group coaching program. We do retreats in Bali and Whistler. So if that interests you, we can chat about that as well. I mean, if you want to get involved in any capacity, if you want to be a Hungry for Happiness coach, we can talk about what that looks like. We have a coaching certification program as well. So there's so many options for people if they want to either train and go through the society, or they want to become a leader and a coach. Whatever that conversation looks like, I'm super happy to have that, or Jen, my business partner, will chat to them.
Oh, that's superb, because I know there are people out there that perhaps will listen to certain fragments of this and it will resonate with them. I know that for a fact. And guys, if you're watching this, whether you're watching it live or pre-recorded, go and check out Samantha Skelly's videos. If you can, go and find that video. Just watch that video. It is changing, and I'm not saying that for the sake that you're here. Truly, I thought to myself, wow. And it's from that moment I was kind of like, I've got to get you on the show.
Oh, that's
it's just it is what it is. I mean, look, you've really enlightened me in terms of certain things to do with triggers, especially the whole negative trigger, the positive trigger, this whole thing of reaction on, which is the whole action against fear and stuff like this. These are things that are actually, they're not groundbreaking, but they're things that have always been in people's heads, but they just choose not to look at. So you're just a bundle of happiness in that respect. I love the way that you're doing what you're doing, and I can see that every day for you is it's not a holiday, but it's a day where you have everything that you want in your life. At the end of the day, you live your life by your own choices, and this is something that I think people should really, really try and kind of take into their own life. At the end of the day, everyone has choices. They always have and always will do. But look, our time has come to an end on this show. We will get the links on for for those of you, again, just to repeat, it's hungryforhappiness.com. Go through there, check out the society on the 6-month program. There's the coaching staff. You can, click in, connect with Samantha. I mean, you've got your Facebook profile and your social trends as well. Keep abreast. If you are someone that's thinking to yourself that you're not entirely satisfied with your life in this respect, don't just blame it on your food or your exercise regime. It could be something a lot more smaller but a lot more deeper, and I believe the Skelly's got something for you there, so go and check her out. But on behalf of Enterprise Lab and the League of Disruptors, Samantha Skelly, we salute you and thank you for coming on the show.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me. We'll catch you up online, okay?
No, definitely. So that brings us to the end of this show, not to the end of this week. We have one more powerhouse to come for the end of this week. Alan Callions, he tours with Tony Robbins. He's a speaker on his circuit. He's going to be with us tomorrow, giving us a whole shakedown on how you can shape up your 2017. My name is Ketan Makwana. This is the League of Disruptors show, and I'll see you guys again soon.